What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and this is part 24 of my reviewing and ranking King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard studio albums in order. We're now on 24. I'm going to talk about this one, and then I'm going to rank it among the other 23 that I've already done according to my personal tastes. I did not put the entire title down there because it is a long title. But before I start discussing this, if you're not familiar with this, I'm going to put the cover of the album back on the screen in a second, and then I'm going to read you the title. And as I read you the title and you look at the cover, imagine in your head what kind of music this is, if you're familiar with King Gizzard. Even if you're not familiar with King Gizzard, kind of see if you can imagine what kind of music it is. And I'm not playing games here. They don't pull a fast one. They don't do something unexpected. There's no like, oh, it sounds like this, but we're doing this. No. They're straight up just like focused. But this is the cover, which is an absolutely fantastic cover. And the complete title of this album is PetroDragonic Apocalypse, or semicolon, or, comma, dawn of eternal night, colon, an annihilation of planet Earth and the beginning of merciless damnation. Yeah, that's the entire title. And as you could probably guess by both the title and the cover, this is a pretty aggressive album. This is a heavy metal album. This is King Gizzard doubling down, maybe 2.3 doubling down on the heavy metal vibe. Infest the Rat's Nest was their first full excursion, was their first pretty much jump into the heavy metal pool. Very thrashy, that was sort of the dominant subgenre that they were dealing with. They've dropped a couple thrashier songs on other albums, but this one they fully return to the heavy metal spectrum, to the heavy metal genre. I think because of their energy, because of their drive, because of the way King Gizzard performs, thrash is sort of the sort of fallback subgenre that they do. But there's some doom elements in here. There's some traditional metal elements in here. There's definitely some progressive rock elements in here. From what I think I read an article once, or I think somebody in the band is a huge Metallica fan, and you can hear that. Like, this is thrash with a love of progressive music and a love of other genres, but it's still kind of thrash, but you can tell they have like deep musical knowledge of other stuff. There's also a song on here called Converge, which when I heard it, I was like, oh, this kind of sounds like the band Converge, which is like a metalcore band from... I think they're still making albums. I think they made an album. I think it's like 3 or 4 years since their last album. But absolutely amazing band. And at times they have that sort of metalcore vibe, that sort of just like kind of punk, thrashy, metalcore type, just aggression. And if you like this album, and especially if you like the song Converge, because that first sort of, I guess it's like the first 30 or 40 seconds of Converge, really of the song Converge remind me of the band Converge. So if you like this album and you haven't checked out Converge, I highly recommend you check out Converge. Especially they put out an album like about 2012, 2014 that was absolutely fantastic. It's got kind of a long name, and I'm not good at remembering title names. But they put out an album called, yeah, I know this is about King Gizzard, but Converge is fantastic. All We Love, We Leave Behind. That's not that long of a title. Fantastic album. But anyways, on to this. It's metal. It is 7 songs. The shortest song is 5 minutes. There's 2 songs that are just over 5 minutes, like by seconds. There's a 4-minute song. Probably one of the best songs on this album, 4-minute song, Gila Monster. And then you get an 8.5 minute, you get a couple 9 minutes. It's about 50 minutes total. But it's aggressive. It is metal to the core from start to finish. There is one song on here that kind of has a more traditional King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard vibe, like something that maybe you would find on one of their more aggressive, like Nonagon Affinity type things. It's very aggressive, but not quite metal. I think that song is Witchcraft is the one. Yeah, Witchcraft. about a 5-minute song that I think sounds the most traditionally aggressive King Gizzard without dipping into like any metal genres. But other than that, they're kind of all over the metal map in the best way possible. I believe there is a concept to this album, but then they also gave an interview, and this interview I was quoted on Mackenzie said about the album's concept, I found this on Wikipedia, it's about humankind and it's about planet Earth, but it's also about witches and dragons and shit. Yeah, that's about it. It's just the lyrics are dark. We're still in that sort of, King Gizzard have a lot to say about how humans are ruining the planet and how we might not all survive. And this album is very much in line with those sentiments. And the way they recorded it was pretty much like they've recorded a lot of their more recent albums. I think each song was recorded over the course of a day. And like they had like a title, I believe, what the lyrics were generally going to be about, and then they would just jam, and then in production they would take the jams and compile songs, and I think later maybe overlay the vocals. I know they did that for a previous one, maybe that's how they did it here, but it's one of those things in which these are coming out of jams, and you can kind of tell because I'm imagining that each day they go in the studio, right? They jam out for hours, and they have decided going into these jams that at some point they're going to have like a drum jam, where everybody's going to step back for a while. We're going to let the percussion section, drums and bass kind of take over. And we're talking like, not like a drum solo, but almost like some congas or something a little more Latin flavored, that kind of drum vibe. Where it's a lot more just like it feels like a break from the aggression of the rest of the song. Each of these songs has that to some degree. On a couple songs, the drum break is like 10 seconds long. It's like everything slows down for a bit. We get drums and bass for a while, then we're off into another riff. In a couple of the songs, it's like a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. The last song, Flamethrower, I think it's the last 5 minutes, almost to a second. The last 5 minutes are like that drum groove is established and they don't ever leave it. Like they just jam it out, and it is absolutely fantastic. But that's a little neat thing about this album. Even though we are just kind of drenched in metal, we do get these little very psyche kind of percussive breakdowns in the middle of each one. Motor Spirit opens up. A lot of these, a lot of patterns that they're doing here. And it kind of makes sense if you know that they like jammed all day and then they took the best pieces. A lot of these songs start with like an opening riff, and then we'll get like bursts of like proggy lines or just kind of like thrashy energy. And then a secondary riff will drop, and like the vocals will like be focused around that secondary riff. A Motor Spirit is like that. You get this opening riff, kind of a doomy, stony vibe, and then we get some full-on thrash. Then we get another riff, and then we're off into like, the rest of the 8.5 minute song. We get the nice downshift in this one. The first kind of sort of downshift occurs around the 3 minute mark, and we get those kind of more like those more simpler, kind of just almost ritualistic type drums, kind of a hippie drum centric jam. But then about 5.5 minutes, things get darker and doomier again, and we got some really nice solos. A lot of like not really lengthy guitar solos in here, but some pretty decent ones. And I find that they're sort of metal tinged soloing from both Mackenzie and who is the other soloist? His name is what's his name? Walker. I guess Walker is soloing too. Both of their solos are so, I think, more nuanced and have just better flavors, and like the ideas they're presenting just seem to be a little more developed than maybe on like Infest. But I found myself enjoying them just a little bit more and kind of wishing they were a little bit longer. But Motor Spirit just opens up with a little bit of everything. Towards the end, you get moments that are just like thrashy and doomy and stonery and traditional metal with the solo. And almost like, it's like an 8.5 minute song. It almost feels like this could have been 3 different songs on like Nonagon Affinity. Like they could have broken this up into 3 different songs. And yes, they take themes and kind of repeat them to unify the beginning of the song with the end of the song. But there are so many just exhilarating changes that if I found out this was actually 3 different songs, it would make sense. First song, Motor Spirit. Second song, Supercell. Another awesome opening riff. Get some screaming solos. Drop into a different awesome riff. Some absolutely ridiculous drums. That bass pedal on the kick drum is just, it's getting a workout, man. It's absolutely amazing. The drumming is crazy. Supercell is a lot more of like a weird kind of herky-jerky, kind of just like not comfortable in your skin, but still really aggressive type jam. Shorter, weirder drum breakdown in this one. Oh, well, we'll get to that when we get to the last song. Converge is that song that starts off really like metalcore to begin with, before like we get like a drop into another cool riff. It's maybe a little more traditional metal-y, maybe a little more like late 70s, early 80s metal at times, but you know, in very much a King Gizzard way. Converge has a lot of shifting energy. One of my favorite lines on the whole album is on Converge. Hungry, crawling, fat, gray rat snake. Yeah, and that kick drum, man, is getting a workout. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. Witchcraft is kind of the funkiest, jerkiest, sort of traditional King Gizzard type, almost psyche, like their traditional type stuff. Really good song. A nice proggy middle section in this one, though. So they're indulging in a little more prog stuff. Short little breakdown. But the middle part of Witchcraft, really proggy, almost like this dizzying type of lines and ideas thrown around. The shortest song on the album, Gila Monster, is just a chugging riff, like the closest thing to just like full on just chugging type metal. There was a band that I was trying to think of that this reminds me of, not the Scorpions, but something that's just a little more not thrashy, but kind of fuller and just really fun song, great solid metal groove with some like Gila, like some chanting, sort of angry type choral vocals coming on in the chorus. The vocals on here are just intense, like sinister, like snarling, like they are bringing the metal vocals in like almost a disturbing fashion. Like this might be the inner dialogue of the Gila Monster. The Gila Monster, I think you pronounce the G, right? It's intense. Yeah, this is just evil and nasty in the best way possible. The shortest song, but probably the most like Time Bandits, the movie Time Bandits, like at the very end, like he's like, don't touch that. That's condensed evil or whatever it is. And then the parents touch it and they blow up. That's what this song is. This is condensed evil. It's the shortest, but it's probably the most like evilest of them all. Just absolutely fantastic song. And then for the last minute of it, it's only like a 4.5 minute song. We downshift into this like kind of slower, not too slow, still like high speed, but just this really nice funky groove for the last minute of the song. It's fantastic. Then we get Dragon, which has the opening riff on Dragon is almost like melodic and almost like positive feeling. It's just a slightly different vibe. But then after like 40 seconds, that more positive vibe is gone and the dark energy returns. At one point we get almost like the double time type. They just pick up the speed and things get a little bit crazier, even though things are already kind of pretty crazy. We get a nice shift around the 2.5 minute mark into this really awesome sort of bass driven but slightly slower vibe. And there's a guitar part in here. This is like a 9.5 minute song towards the middle that really has this really nice, almost like melodic prog guitar line. It's not the same thing that's played over and over again, but it's just toying around with similar ideas. And it gives it this really nice, almost like melodic proggy, just like hope to center itself around. Maybe the dragon is hope. I don't know. Maybe we get on its back and fly away. But it's really cool. And just the guitar part. Like there's still a lot of mad percussion going on and crazy things, but there's just this soaring, maybe it's the dragon soaring over the scenery, but it's a really nice guitar part. And then that builds up and kind of builds up in intensity till we get just more metal craziness, and a lot of just like really cool high speed proggy runs towards like the second third of this that are just absolutely like Mastodon style, just craziness type stuff, like stuff in Inca Roads, Jethro Tull craziness, just these really crazy type proggy runs. Just fantastic. And then the last song, Flamethrower, it is just absolutely amazing. This just it starts off with the drums, and then we go into song Adrenaline. It's very dramatic, but adrenaline build. It's just like this relentless beast of an attack of a song, and that's for like the first 4.5 minutes. The first 4.5 minutes is your typical sort of metal attack, kind of a little traditional metal at times, but it's just this really pure metal song. And then at the 4.5 minute mark, that's when we slow down, we get that funky drum groove. I'm pretty sure the guitars disappear altogether. And the last 5 minutes of this is just this weird electronic, proggy, jammy psych groove that is fantastic. It's just absolutely amazing. And I don't think there's a guitar. If there's a guitar in there, they're like processing it to make it sound like a synthesizer or other stuff. But it is just, it's almost 2 songs. It's like Flamethrower into something else, or Flame is the first 4.5 minutes and Thrower is the last 5. But it's an exhilarating way to end this album that in a weird way sounds like nothing else on the album, but because it's King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, it sounds like exactly everything else on the album, if that makes sense, and it doesn't. But if you like your metal, like I read a lot of reviews, right? I like to read reviews. That's how I find out about music, right? And I remember after Infest the Rat's Nest, there was a lot of like, this is King Gizzard's version of metal, right? They're just dipping their toes in this. Go back to Psych. This is legit, man. This is absolutely legit. You know, it's modern metal. They are aware of many genres. Their preference seems to be thrash, the love of Metallica. But some of the vocal performances, the lines they're writing, the solos, the drum work, like this is legit metal, man. It's King Gizzard metal. It's Australian metal. It's psych metal, but it's metal, and it should be considered that. It's fantastic. Where would I rank this among all the other absolutely amazing albums this band has put out? Yeah, for as great as it is, I have it at number 8. Omnium Gatherum is half of that album is perfect. The other half I think is great, but a little more inconsistent. So that seems to be like the breaking point at this point. Like if an album is fantastic and doesn't have what I think are any weak spots, it's going to be above Omnium. If I find a weak spot or two, it's going to be below Omnium. So I have this at number 8. It's just, it's great. These are like S-tier albums, like almost everything on this entire list. It's like an S-tier. I just put it there because look at what else is on this list. Like this band is ridiculous. They're sick. This band is sick, people. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this album. If you go check it out because of this, let me know if you think how well you think I did. I'm trying to fine tune these so I can send people to music that they might love so we can all listen to more music and make the world a better place. I appreciate your time. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and go listen to this album, people, especially if you like metal. If you're a metalhead, this is your time to discover a new band. If you're not a metalhead and you're a King Gizzard, find some metal. Go discover Metallica, man. This band obviously loves Metallica. Open your mind. Get into metal. It's great. The rabbit holes are deep in the metal genre, people. All right, that's all I got. Peace. Talk to you later.